honest and unfiltered, and so this, I don't know, controversial perhaps, but I actually feel like when WW comes out, you may expect that like, oh, I'm gonna sit there all day like watching all the sessions and boring into it. That's pretty much the common indie developer response, but I actually feel like, honestly, I've been kind of, I'm just gonna be straight up honest, like I've been kind of burned over the years. Like I feel like there's been a lot of APIs that have come out that they end up not kind of delivering, they're buggy, and like oftentimes I have to wait like several betas for them to even be usable. So I usually kind of take it easy. You know, I'll scan through the titles to see, are there any features here that like maybe are marketing opportunities, like I'm gonna note them and I should do a deep dive, because like I do try to spot any opportunities for like, you know, September when the OS comes out, I can do a big update. But if there's not any of those, then I kind of don't sweat it, and sometimes I won't even watch the sessions, or maybe I'll wait a couple weeks, yeah, try not to put too much pressure, because I do think that there's an environment to like you have to know everything really quickly, and I just want to present maybe a counter notion to that.
Out of curiosity, what is your OS version like support state?
Currently, 16 is for the iOS.
Yeah, so I imagine that plays into that as well, right?
Soon. Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I am bumping that up soon, so maybe it'll be a little bit different, and maybe it'll be a little bit different this year, depending on what's announced. We'll see. With like the design changes and stuff that are coming out, that may force me to have a different approach. So it kind of depends on the year.
And then I guess jumping over to Neem to sort of represent the other side, although if I'm being honest with you, I was expecting the what you were just saying.
I'm sorry.
No. That's it. I think that's like a really useful perspective, because it's different than what I would have guessed. But at big companies like at Stitch Fix, when you have a big person team and things move really slowly, how do you absorb what's happening at WWDC?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually, I'm like Ryan. I watch the State of the Union, and I just kind of glance over things. Normally, at different companies I've been at, there's always been a Slack channel where people post the cool things that they've seen. This is all great, but at big companies, you usually have to support 1 or 2 old iOS versions, and we never can really move things fast, right? So normally, I take note of the cool things, and then I set myself a reminder for like 2 years from now, for when we can actually start using it, completely honestly. And I mean, partly it sucks, right? It's like I didn't get to use Swift concurrency when it first came out. I think that's actually good. I'm not an early adopter. I adopt it when it's really stable and other people have tried it. And I think that's the approach that a lot of big companies take. And I think it's a completely fine one. So like Ryan, I'm not up to speed on the newest stuff at all times. But I do write stable code, so it's kind of a trade-off.
You said you set reminders. Do you literally do that?
Yeah, I do.
So do you get like a N-1 WWDC every year, where you get like a whole bunch of reminders about things from a year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I usually have like a top 10 list of like things that I should like actually watch, and then I try to watch one every other.
That feels like an app idea. Like I should be able to open those
like
unofficial
that, yeah.
WWDC apps where it's like, give me WWDC from 2 years ago and release them like once a day or something like that. Because it is weird. Even as an indie, I run into the same problem for my app, and I usually try to jump on things immediately. But when it comes to like new APIs, especially, or like new Swift features or new APIs that don't give you new features for your app but just make it a lot easier, I just don't adopt them because I can't yet, and then you forget that they exist completely, and there's no buzz around it anymore. So yeah, that almost feels like an interesting opportunity. So along that note, I sort of alluded to this, but this year there's a bunch of rumors of a big redesign coming. We're not going to talk about the rumors themselves, but Edward, as a designer, what do you think is a good way to approach Apple kind of coming down from the mountain and giving us a whole new idea of how you should design something?
I think it'll depend a lot on what comes out
It's fair, yeah.
and how much of a change it is. I mean, I would start with the obvious, which would be testing the app, running the app with the with the new thing, and just making sure that yeah, it all works, it all looks okay. Like if a button changed, like is it still aligned? Does it still look cohesive with the rest of your app? And maybe your app relied too much on the aesthetics of iOS 7 and of right now, and then you might have to adapt certain things in order to make it feel cohesive in this new environment, with the added challenge of having to do if iOS 17 and if iOS 19 or whatever, and then just start, just start fixing the bugs, because there will be plenty. That's often the times when you also find out that maybe you hard-coded certain things that you shouldn't have, you know?
No, it's never happened to me.
And but even when you haven't, I mean, stuff breaks, right? And
Yeah.
there's plenty of things break. There's always the panic of like when it first launches too, when it's like first beta, everything breaks completely, right? And then as the betas progress, things get better and better. So probably like don't panic too soon as it comes out, because it's probably going to be super broken.
Yeah. Super broken on the iOS level, right? Like,
Yeah.
Not just your app, but it might be the framework itself is literally broken.
Right.
And it is, as Apple will often say, very important to find those and file radars, but that's like a job. And so, especially if it stresses you out or you have a really big app, you might be just burning a lot of cycles doing a bunch of work that immediately is going to get fixed in the next beta release.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The most recent thing that we had was Big Sur, right? Like the big redesign, not for iOS, but for Mac OS.
Yeah.
That's the that broke a ton of things for Mac apps, and so and that was the process. Even in Xcode, we had to, we were releasing Xcode as the thing was coming out, and yeah, it's just like so many things broken, and so that's just the process.
How do you approach that from like a design perspective? Is it obviously at Apple, it's going to be different than somewhere where you have your own company brand, so to speak. But like, do you just watch all the sessions, especially the sessions by designers, where they're sort of giving their take on what's important for the OS, and then figuring out how does that fit into my design language?
Sure. Yeah. For Big Sur, we're in constant communication with the platform HI team, or that they're the gods of Apple that tell us everything, how it goes. And so just to learn, like, hey, when should we use this kind of button? When should we do this kind of thing, right? To kind of learn what the rules, because the rules aren't written in the HIG yet, right? But then yes, as a developer, definitely watching. I'm sure that if a new design comes out, that there will be a lot of content at WWDC that you can definitely watch those things. And the other thing, look at the other apps, what they're doing, right? Like all of the first-party apps, and especially for iOS, and if there's a redesign on the Mac OS, like look at all of the first-party Mail, Safari, Notes, Reminders, because they'll all have the updates, and they'll have been in touch with the AI team, and so they'll know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Well, they at least have the inside scoop, and so
Exactly.
it's a good proxy for what it is that Apple designers are looking for.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Before we move on to kind of the next subject, I want to get into the questions from you all. So we're going to start with not the most upvoted question is my test question, which I failed to delete. But the next most upvoted question is from Sophie, and it's how have you used your leadership role in the industry to support developers from underrepresented groups? How do you foster an inclusive environment at work? And I'm going to throw this to you, Neem. I know that's like stereotypical to take the most underrepresented person, but we talked about it before, and this is something you're passionate about and have done a whole bunch in St. Louis, where we live. And so I find that really inspiring. So I'd like to let you talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember starting out, my first year I went to WWDC, and like a literal camera crew was like following me around because I was one of the few women that were there. And I never wanted to have that happen again. So I felt like I wanted to get more diversity just through hanging out with people, right? So I started a meetup in St. Louis just to like get developers from all different variety of things to just talk to each other and hang out. Like the first meetup wasn't like, what language do you do? We asked each other like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? And just kind of went from there and made a lot of organic connections, which I feel like people have been doing at this conference. And you just learn so much from people, and seeing that go very well in team settings of like, oh, I'm not the most technical at this, but I'm really great at organizing. I know I can ask this person for help, and we could be a better team together has been really nice. And that's just been from like a variety of like having an extroverted person, an introverted person, somebody who cares about all the WWDC things, somebody who's like me, who's like, I'll care about it in 2 years. And you just get like a broad perspective so that you kind of come to a middle ground, right? Like some people want to refactor the entire thing every single year because there's new APIs. And then there are other people who are like, hey, we have to ship things that are stable. And you always come to a good middle ground. So I really like that in teams. And so when I'm interviewing, I want to try to find people who will just bring different things to teams. And I know there's a lot of new people here who are like, there's so many people that are better at this, that are more experienced. There's AI now. But I think everyone brings something different to teams. And that's really important.
Yeah, you mentioned interviewing as part of like how to support more diversity in the workplace. And we've talked about that a bunch when we work together. And it's like, that is almost like the front line, it feels like. Because how you construct your interview process deeply instructs the eventual people that you get. And so I think the one thing I feel like I've learned, but maybe is wrong, is like every interview process is bad and benefits a different group of people and hurts a different group of people. And you kind of have to just understand that that's true and try to build something with those, understanding what those different drawbacks are, and try and build something that's going to be, useful for somebody who's bad at code performing, even if they're good at writing code for the job. But also there's people that don't have a lot of time for a take-home test. And how do you balance all those? I actually don't know the answer at all, but it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all thing. And I think you kind of constantly have to adjust and get feedback from people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've been having this conversation with a lot of people. Like, I will forever take a take-home test over any, like, here's a problem, I want you to solve it in an hour in front of me. I'm not the kind of person who can like perform on demand, but if you give me a take-home test, I could get familiar with it. I could hire a babysitter because I want the job, honestly. Like that's what I've done for the past couple of jobs, but it makes me feel confident, and knowing that like, hey, do I want a person who can like go into a code base, understand it and build upon it, or am I looking for something different? And all jobs are looking for something different. That it's not a reflection on me. It kind of is a reflection on them, honestly. But it's been very interesting doing a lot of different interviews and kind of seeing what does a company really care about and what are they trying to see, and will you be, successful in that role? And for me, I've found that when I'm doing a take-home and I'm doing a pairing interview and somebody's not trying to trick me, they're actually trying to work with me, that's the company I want to be at.
Yeah. That's great. All right, so another question from the audience here. This is a question for Ryan from Daniela. Drawing from your indie experience, how would you market Food Noms if you were launching it today? And today meaning after like Jordan's talk about how you should be marketing your indie app.
I feel like I have to say that talk was so good, and there's some really good advice in that talk. So yeah, that was great. And I don't know, marketing is so hard, and I love talking about marketing. I think it's for me, it's an unsolved problem. It's one of my favorite things to discuss with you guys at Deep Dish. I think the way I think about this now is I'm coming up on working on Food Noms for 6 years, and it's kind of crazy how time flies, and life is short, right? And like I've really enjoyed it, but it has been a grind, and it has been a success, but it's also been a grind. And it's taken a lot to build kind of the audience that I've built up. And it has been slow and incremental. And I feel like if I were to like start over today, I would have a lot less patience for that. It's kind of the basic thing. And then like, what does that translate to? I feel like I kind of look around in the space and what like thinking big, like 10x food noms, like what would be it? Like thinking on the next scale, what would that look like? I'm honestly, I don't know, this is kind of like fantasy, but like I feel like considering like actually partnering with like someone who already has a huge audience and like being co-owners. So you know, you could argue, is that still indie? I think you could still make that argument, it's still indie, but like go in with someone else. Maybe they have a huge YouTube channel, you know, or like, and then the great thing is you launch and then you immediately have like tens of thousands of customers on day one, right? Like, and you don't have to solve everything, right? Like they can help bring that audience and convert that to users. And I think that would be kind of the dream, honestly.
That's really interesting. I feel like working at Revenue Cat, I've seen that model a lot more frequently. I don't know if it's actually new or if it's just because I work at a place where I see it all the time now, but that does seem to be a pretty common approach, is like, it's essentially like you're getting distribution through somebody else's like channel that they've already built up.
Yeah, and you are paying for it, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't have full ownership of the company, but you know, in thinking about time and how life is short, maybe that's worth paying for, you know?
Yeah, and like you talked about the grind, and I feel like from sort of the outside, like we've been friends for a while, but I feel like the story of Food Noms to me is the sort of incremental growth thing. Like I know a lot of successful indies who, they've been doing it, they're the, 10-year overnight success or whatever. Like, yes, they have that, but there was this like moment that catalyzed everything. And I can think of maybe 3, maybe 4 things in Food Nom's lives that were like big moments, but they weren't, and now everything's different.
Right.
Not Widget Smith,
Yeah.
you know, getting TikToked and everybody learning about that being a
Yeah.
thing.
And maybe that's in my future. I don't know. Knock on wood. Maybe someday that will happen. But
But you have grown it into something that is now.
yeah, the thing I will say is that I have taken kind of a PR like approach in addition to the slow growth. So if you kind of look at the trend lines of, you know, the history, you can definitely spot where like I had a major release, and that does change the game. Like you do a major release, if it's successful and you actually also made the product better, like you can see the history in the graph over time. So there may not be like, yeah, that one Widget Smith moment where like, yeah, overnight millionaire sort of situation, but you know, it all adds up over time.
Yeah, that's, and do you still blog about the stuff that you've been doing?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I like, well, because I can't remember what I've talked to you about and what
Yeah.
I've read, but like you've talked a lot about, I know like your ASO failures and successes and different paywall experiments that you've done, all these like, you've just kept like your nose to the grindstone and kept finding those 5% improvements over time,
Right.
here and there and here and there.
Yeah.
And like you said, it like all sort of gradually rolls up into, you look back and you're like, whoa, this actually grew into something kind of big.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think that part of the reason of that is that because like my app is a nutrition tracker, right? And there's so many
Yeah.
nutrition trackers, right? So like it's basically the build a better mousetrap sort of situation. And when you're in that situation, it really is hard to like pop out and differentiate. So you kind of, if you are an indie dev or aspiring and you're thinking about building an app, you want to consider that. Like it is an approach you can take, but it is an approach that requires the grind mindset, and it's going to take a really long time. You may want to opt for something that's maybe more novel, maybe, you know, more risky. But yeah, it's it has been a grind for sure.
Just a quick, because I can't stop myself from talking, to piggyback off of choosing something novel while you have greener pastures in terms of it's less competitive field, you also have to find customers. Like customers aren't looking for it because it's not already a big competitive landscape. So it definitely goes both ways.
It does, yeah, it does.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so well, let's do one more question from the audience, and then we'll move on to the next big topic here. So this one's for Edward from Antoine. From all that you've designed in the Xcode team, what are you most proud of that you can talk about?
Can I pick a few things?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. There's simple things. Like there are major features that I worked on, but then it's just the simple things. So the one, I don't know if you all remember, a few years ago, for app icons for iOS, you had to put like 20 different sizes. And I really fought hard to get the one size in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was like, it's like the biggest quality of life feature that just
yeah.
made literally, that's got to be a weird thing working on a product that large, where like a small thing you can do can make so many people's lives incrementally better all at once.
For sure. And it took 3 years to get that done. Just lots of meetings and lots of challenges. There were meetings with like 25 people in the room just to discuss all the implications of putting a single app icon, and even down to like what rasterization algorithm are we going to use for resizing to make sure that the pixels are perfect when they're and I mean, how many people care that like the rasterization?
But people do,
you know,
and when the audience size is the whole world,
right.
yeah, you have to think about those things.
Yeah, and so we're testing like straight lines versus angular lines versus circulars versus different colors and so on to see if the rasterization was okay. All of those things to make sure that. So it's like more work. That's always the case at Apple, right? There's just way more detail that goes into it, and it just takes time. But that was a big one. And then other smaller features I loved. I was working on the source editor team, and so code completion stuff. Also, a few years ago, I don't know if you remember, or if you know, if you close a curly brace, it auto indents the text. That I really fought hard for that one. I loved it. And then also,
Yeah, more.
thank you. And this is more of a pro tip because I think not many people know this, but like if you select a range, like if you're doing SwiftUI and you want to like wrap something in a VStack, you can select the range, press the curly brace, and not only it'll wrap the whole thing, but it'll put your cursor at the start of it so that you can then type the header. So you can type VStack.
I did not know that you could do that.
So this is just those little things.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, that's a great answer. Was there one more that you wanted to talk about?
There's one more that shipped for one beta release and then got pulled out. And so when SwiftUI came out, I don't know if you remember, there's a library with all of the modifiers and views in there. So if you do Command-Shift-L, you would see the library with all of the modifiers for adding there. And I had to make all of the icons for all of the SwiftUI modifiers and views that were there up at that time. And so it's just, had to really be creative. Oh, what is the icon for, digital crown rotation or something, right? It's like, I don't, And then there's one for disable autocorrect. And I was thinking, autocorrect, disabling how does
It's a frequently auto-corrected word.
Yeah, what is a frequently autocorrected word that could represent this thing here? And so I went with the obvious choice, and I made a duck with a slash through. For those who get it.
And it shipped in the beta, but it
shipped in the
went
beta.
to the world.
Someone tweeted about it. And then the executives found out because my boss was on vacation at that time when we shipped. And then we got asked to do something different.
I just love that made it into the real world.
It did.
Oh, that's so good.
It was a good one.
All right, so we've touched on it a couple times here, but let's get into the topic on everybody's mind now, which is AI. AI, all the things, and this represents. I kind of think of it as representing three different things in our industry, and the first one, maybe the scariest one, is what impact do you think that all these new AI vibe coding tools are going to have on software development as a career? And are there things you think would be smart to do now to kind of get ahead of it, or is it okay to just bury your head in the sand? And let's just go down the line. We'll start with Ryan.
I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think anyone does, but I would say do not bury your head in the sand. I would caution against that. I do think that these are powerful tools that are going to be a part of our lives, regardless of what anyone wants to do about that, and better to be equipped with that knowledge. And there's a lot of skill sets, and I think it's actually good for an engineer too, like prompt engineering, and like it's actually kind of fun too. So I recommend giving it a try.
Very, very professional show we're operating here.
Yeah. So if you're a junior dev, you haven't tried out ChatGPT, Cursor, coding, give it a shot. That's what I would say.
Edward?
Do not bury your head in the sand, for sure. You have to be using it. If you're not, like, you're in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. Those are the people that are going to be in trouble, for sure. I think it's, I have more questions than I have answers. I think this is the case for most of us. I think for junior developers, it can really elevate them very quickly, right? It can someone who may not be as familiar or be as technical may be expected to do something that's a lot more powerful, right? A lot more important early on. The ramp up for a junior engineer will also be a lot faster, right? Because you're just going to be able to ask, like, hey, tell me about this thing in the code base. And so you're going to have to kind of stay on top of things, you know, because I think the expectations are going to be higher there. I'm on the hopeful side. I'm hopeful that it'll free us up to do the interesting stuff, because AI still is not that great at doing the really interesting stuff, but it's really good at kind of just fixing the low-level bugs. And so I foresee a future very soon, if not now, where you have this backlog of hundreds of little bugs that is just like, just fix this little pixel, do this little thing, this thing that, whatever, right? There's a micro delay in this thing, right? Those are going to be gone. The agents are going to be taking care of those.
That sounds so dark. The agents are going to come.
Agents will take care of them. And then it'll free the senior developers, to just do the good things. And even, potentially they might have bugs that are blocking them from doing a larger task. The agent will take care of those, and they're free to actually do their jobs. And so if they enjoy their jobs, then I think it's going to be, I'm hopeful that it's going to be good. But I can only predict maybe like 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, that's...
And then after that, I don't know. Maybe then we'll all be out of jobs.
Ending on a high note there. That's good. I like that. Neem, can you help us out?
So I have my head in the sand. I've used AI once, just after talking to the two of them, and they were like, "How have you not used AI before?" I used it. It was great. It worked for what I asked it for. I think we're all adaptable people. That's why we're all developers, right? I think when you need to use it, you'll be able to learn how to use it. I think there's going to be a million tutorials that help you with prompt engineering. So, like, I'm not super worried that I'm going to be, like, left behind. And, like, I feel like everyone's saying that. It's like, you need to start right now. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. I'm fine right now, completely honestly. Like, thank you. Appreciate it. But, like, I came from a company where I knew the code base in and out, and, like, I had friends who were like, hey, let's see. Can I figure this out with, like, Cursor or whatever before you can? And it was, like, 50-50 sometimes. A lot of it's, like, I know the person who wrote this code and the business logic behind it, and AI doesn't, right? AI knows what you put into it, and a lot of times you're at a big company and features have evolved over time, and there's one person who remembers, hey, we did this hack because of this reason, and now we have a new feature and that interacts with it in a weird way. AI doesn't know that, right? People know that. Not sure, not yet, but like, I don't necessarily know if it ever will know like that
Have access to the PRs eventually.
eventually, but I still think there's like a human element to a lot of it and like a human feeling of like, hey, I'm testing this out and like actually it kind of works kind of weird. Like, yes, the code is beautiful, fully tested. AI wrote all of these things. This is great, but honestly, doesn't work super well. A user doesn't want to use it. So like, yeah, sure. I think it's going to automate a lot of the things that we don't want to do. I want it to automate all of those like Xcode warnings that we get and like take those away.
Yes.
Dear God, if it did that, I'm like fully on board. But like, I don't think I'm not going to be having a job in like 5 years.
Yeah, I do think there's a bit too where like at the where you're living at in as a senior or what is your actual title? Is it senior
Staff.
staff?
engineer,
Oh,
that's
look at
fair.
that. But like even when we were working together at Stitch Fix, when you were, you weren't like an architect or something. Where as a senior dev, you're living up at the business logic. Like, how do we? To your point, how much of the Xcode feature was about the implementation of making those icons work versus hundreds of teams of people getting in agreement on what is okay and what isn't, and understanding the downstream impacts of that. And I do think AI tools are super helpful for that. Like in my sort of marketing side of my job, it's amazing. The deep research stuff is great for just like pulling ideas out and whatever. But to your point you just said, you can learn all that. Almost by design, these things are ridiculously easy to get going with. And do I think that having played with the AI tools a year ago made it easier for me to use the AI tools that are coming out right now? When I actually think about it, it's like, I guess not really. Now that's different than implementing AI features into your app. That's like a whole kind of different conversation. But in terms of the threat to our job, whether or not it's a threat to our job long term, I don't know that you're getting ahead necessarily that much by spending a whole bunch of time in it now. Not that you shouldn't, but it's not as scary as it feels on the surface, maybe.
I'm not sure I agree entirely. I think with traditional tools, when you're learning something, you're learning like, okay, if I have this problem, there's this shortcut. And you learn that shortcut. With an AI, it's almost like you're learning how to interact with this other being, this other entity. So it's like more like learning how to work with a child or someone else. And you start to learn their quirks and like what they like and what they don't like to hear and what works and what doesn't. And a lot of that comes from an intuition. It's rare. Yes, you can read some blogs that'll give you some, pro tips and so on, but I'm seeing all these prompts on Twitter popping up. So like, here's my top prompt that will, and I went and I was like, how much better are they? And I did some deep research to see like how much better are they? And it's like 5 to 10% better improvement by actually putting those prompts, which is a good amount. It's fine. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot about just learning how to speak to it. And I think that you get that through usage. It's not something that you learn overnight. Having used it for a year every day, I feel like there's so much in my brain now that is just I couldn't pass on because it just through practice,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think, obviously, we all have our different experiences, but I do feel like the type of prompting I learned to do for models a year ago is almost completely irrelevant to the models now. But again, like we've all been talking about, who knows what the future holds on this. But, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually want to see if we can like try to take a collaborative approach to making a lot of these AI prompts, right? Like we do team code reviews. Well, okay, bigger companies, maybe not indie developers, do like team code reviews, right? And I want to, and I've seen a lot of people like be like, hey, I used AI on this. Can't really explain the code. I want us to get to a point where it's like, kind of like the talk yesterday, where it's like AI is explaining why we put this line of code in. So not only am I learning it, the AI knows it, but like everyone on the team is learning together. That's kind of where I want to see it. And I think it'll be really useful as we like together are saying, hey, I'm sharing my prompt. This worked well for this. It's kind of like parenting, too. Like,
yeah,
similar to your
yeah,
analogy,
yeah.
right? Where I'm like, yeah, my kid doesn't go to bed. Oh, you let your kid have 3 bottles of water and that lets them go to bed? Cool, let me try that, right? I would like to see more of that because right now it just feels like a very individual, like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm getting ahead by getting all of this code out. Can you do better with your AI prompts? And I want to see us kind of try to build collaboratively, especially on teams, so we all understand the code that we're writing and we're supporting together.
Yeah, I guess kind of to that point, and maybe on a like more positive note, what are the ways that I guess you two have been integrating AI into your workflows? Not necessarily feature-wise, but just the tools that you're using to help you write code or build apps. We can start with Ryan.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been using ChatGPT assisted coding for probably over a year now, and then recently,
Is that with the Mac app?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and before that on the web, and then I recently actually gave Cursor a try. I've been like kind of ignoring it for a while, and then finally gave it a try. I learned about its agent mode, and when that's what sold me was when the first time I had it like do a refactor where it like split up a bunch of like Swift UI views into multiple files. When I realized it could like actually create separate files and do these like sort of refactors for me, that's when I was like, oh shit, this is something else. And ever since then, I've kind of learned. I think like what Ed's saying, it's like you kind of learn like what models and what tools are good for what jobs, right? And so like I'm not like sticking with one editor now. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, and like depending on the task, it's just another tool in the tool belt, and I'll pull it out. And so like I love to use it, for example, when I'm like, some days I just feel like kind of burnt out, and it's just like the hardest part is like creating that new Swift UI view, like the new thing, and just getting started, that boilerplate. So like that's actually like, it's almost like an emotional thing, like offloading that to like an AI to just like,
You're delegating.
yeah, right, exactly,
Yeah.
to start it out helps me a lot. And then I just kind of changed my mindset from like an implementer to like a code reviewer. So I usually have like very low trust for all the code, but I am like heavily scrutinizing it. But in a lot of ways, that's like emotionally less burdensome, and that actually just helps me be happier and like enjoy my job more, you know?
So just like, because I've used ChatGPT a lot, more or less like a conversational autocomplete, which it's like super good at doing. And I've tried Cursor a couple times, and it feels like it's the Discord of AI tools. Like it makes me feel old, and like I don't know what I'm doing, and I just close it down and open back up ChatGPT, which says a lot about me, I think. But I've heard people talking about the agentic agents, whatever, in Cursor and in lots of tools. But the way that you're describing it, it sounds like in Cursor you can ask it to do something and it just kind of scurries off and goes and does it.
Right, yeah. Like even high level things like, oh, like in this directory, I want to add this analytics event to all of these like things that like you might think, oh, could you do like a find and replace action for that? But oh, I want it like this extra piece of like payload on it that like it needs to be extracted from this other place. And that basically could take like several hours, and then it was able to do, right? Like you see what it's doing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna like run like a find command, and it like shows like the terminal commands, and it will like confirm if you want to do it. And it's like, oh, I couldn't find any files like this. Let me try searching this other place. And it's like, it's really kind of crazy. Like it is working through the problem one step at a time, and you get to see what it's doing. And yeah, I just think it's pretty cool, pretty amazing.
Man, especially in well-architected apps that are all dependency injection, where it takes you a full day to get one piece of data from one part of the code to the other part of the code. It's like the most mind-numbing work ever, because it's just, you can't automate it. Well, it sounds like you can now, but like that type of work, that's, as soon as you started describing that, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
do that? Like, have you done something like that before with it?
Done what exactly?
Just like you have something, a piece of data on a model that you need to show in a view, and probably food noms is like you built it all, so you know everything super well, and it's architected exactly how your brain works. But
Talking about like plumbing.
yeah, just
data.
plumbing data.
I haven't
down
done
layers.
that, but yeah, that would probably work. It might be. I'd be a little iffy on if it could accomplish that perfectly, but
But I guess to your point, the idea is you're giving a junior developer a task, and then you code review it like you would if it's somebody who's new.
yeah, and I mean, it's worse than the junior developer. It's pretty low
Sure.
trust, but and sometimes you have to, like what Ed was saying, you have to have the intuition to know, is this a problem that it's actually going to be good at, or is it probably not
Yeah.
going to be good at? And so sometimes you try, and it's just like, no, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to do it myself.
And then what about you, like as far as tooling goes, and how you've used it?
So January last year, I left Apple and I decided to work on my own app. And I knew Swift and obviously I knew Xcode, but not enough. I had never built an app before. And but GPT was around, and so I used it heavily. And I didn't use it to the vibe coding extent that people are, it's like it kind of blindly just, doing. I was trying to learn, and I learned a ton from it. And so it was really an accelerator for me in that sense. And I kind of got used to that flow of just going to GPT or now Claude and telling them, dragging files that are related, right? And then asking it and getting the answer and then copying and pasting. And it's not the most optimal way, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not using Cursor for Xcode. I don't think it's a very friendly kind of way to develop iOS apps these days. So yeah, I'm just kind of old school still, very much. I've tried the GPT features for like the integration with Xcode, but then sometimes it's just like it's easier for me to just go old school, just drag the file, copy paste, cut paste, that kind of stuff. For the agents, I'm a little scared of, and then it's not so much the scared part. I think that the experience for using those agents needs quite a bit of work still. It's still quite manual, like even the code review part of things, right? It's like the whole experience there for, it feels like it could be so much smoother. And I'm hopeful that, yeah, these companies are gonna start working on these experiences and making them, kind of flushing them out to actually make it super streamlined. Rather than you're still having to kind of jump around different parts of the UI in order to do things, and it's just kind of, it's almost just as disconnected as it has been up until now, that you have to review the thing in one part and have to accept the thing in one, and like prompt the thing. It's just like, it's like there needs to be some glue there that, that I think we'll figure it out in the next, few years, months of years.
Months or years.
Months or years.
That describes the AI cycle time very well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, this is
yeah.
either happening in a decade or it's happening next week. And
Yes.
I genuinely cannot figure out which one it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's funny. I guess sort of on the feature side of it then. I'm just going to read this question exactly the way I wrote it. Apple Intelligence. Pause for audience laughter. There it is. Any thoughts? And I'm going to throw this to Ryan because I think something, this is not really Apple Intelligence so much, but a big feature that you just did with Food Noms is pretty directly related or indirectly related in a way. So I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was about last summer after WWDC. Actually, it was I was looking at app intents, and I feel like, okay, I kind of see the writing on the wall. I'm a believer in AI in the future, and now Apple is pitching it as the future, and I could see that, all right, they're pitching app intents. This is going to be the framework that is going to be required, the underpinnings to all this, and it's going to be a lot of work. Food Noms is a pretty big app. It's somewhat deceptively complicated, and it's going to take a lot of work to get that done. So I want to be kind of ahead of the curve, skate to where the puck's going, sort of thing. And I started work on it, and it ended up taking quite a long time. And I was thinking that it was taking so long. It's like I thought that I was going to miss the boat. That Apple Intelligence was going to ship, and like all the Siri smarts are going to come out, and I'm not going to be able to like have a release to go with that. Turns out I was wrong.
Yeah, procrastination really was rewarded this year.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I did do like a press launch, and like I was like, originally I was thinking I want to say like, oh, this is the big Apple Intelligence release, and I kind of had to like tune that down to be like, oh, it's ready for Apple Intelligence. But you know, still you can see the bits and pieces that like the building blocks that they're working on, and kind of like I can also see still where they want to go, and I am still optimistic that they will get there, and then you know, I'll be there when they're ready. And I think it will be cool. I think like what they have set themselves up with App Intents is kind of like a very abstract framework that works well with all sorts of features like Spotlight and the Shortcuts app, and it's like a really good abstraction that I think will work well with like technologies like LLMs. And I do have faith that it will all come together someday, and I think that will be really cool. And you know, we have like on our phones, we can open it up, and if you have Food Noms installed, you know, you can ask this like really complicated query, like, oh, what did I eat last Tuesday? I want to log it again, and it will just like know how to chain together the app intents to make that happen. I think that would be pretty sweet. We'll see when that happens, but I'm ready at least.
Yeah, I think that's. I think app intents are a really interesting piece of technology, especially on the indie side of things, where the more you can plug into the system, the more you sort of get features for free, even outside of Apple Intelligence. And also, just a hot marketing tip, the more Apple really, really wants to promote you, because you're using the things that they want to do. Not guaranteed, obviously, but they like it when you use their APIs that are very iOS specific. And I was looking up the time. So tomorrow, 9 a.m., be here to hear Matthew Casanelli, because he will tell you all about app intents. I'm sure he's here in the room somewhere. Maybe not. I can't actually see anybody because of the lights. Anyway, so I grossly underestimated how long per question we were going to ask. So there's a lot of questions in there that I haven't gotten to, and maybe I'll come up with some way to utilize those. I don't know. I'll think about that. But I wanted to end on sort of just like a fun grab bag little topic here, which is like, what are your favorite development tools that you're using right now? And we'll start with Neem.
That's a good question. I tend to stay at companies for a long time, so that means that I have like 7 million versions of Xcode installed on my laptop, and it takes up all the space there is. So I really like Daisy Disk, just to be able to like very easily find all of the files that I need to delete to free up space. That's probably one of my favorites right now. And Xcodes, to have multiple versions of Xcode on my machine.
I was going to say Xcodes, yeah. When you say,
Yeah, that's Xcodes with an S. If you aren't familiar already, it's just an app to help you download the right version of Xcode without having to go through App Store Connect. Man, App Store Connect is getting a bad rap. I guess it's not App Store Connect, developer account, whatever it is. Apple's website or the App Store for downloading Xcode takes forever, and managing all of those is a nightmare. And now there's a little tool that's totally free, I think still.
Yeah, it is.
Called Xcodes, and you should 100% use it because it'll make your life just a little bit nicer every time they release a dot release. So that's a great one. What about you, Edward?
Tower, if anybody knows it, the Git tool.
Yeah.
Amazing. Can't live without it.
That's for managing Git.
Yeah, managing Git. Yeah, because the Xcode one is.
Who designed that? Oh man.
No comments. Yeah. So what else? I saw the Sentry folks out there, and I really liked them actually. They really helped me figure out. Like, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, and so oftentimes just catching those bugs as they happen. And they even had an AI tool for helping make sense of the stack trace and kind of try to figure out, like, oh yeah, it's over here. It's like, oh, okay, because I had no idea. And I don't know how to use instruments, and I need to watch one of the talks here too, instruments apparently, how to use instruments. And what's the other one? One last one. Rotato. Have you heard
Oh,
of Rotato?
yes.
Rotato. Yeah, it's for taking like 3D videos, screenshots of your app, like so you can get like a 3D iPhone and put your app screenshot or even a video and like make these super cool like just Apple quality type renderings of these phones for your app. So app promos, Rotato, incredible.
Yeah, that's been around for a really long time too.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
only
just-
just discovered it, but yes, it's
Yeah, no, it's great. Like I tend to go. I get like way in the weeds in After Effects and like all these 3D rendering things, and everybody asks how I make my videos, and I'm always like, use Rotato, because you don't want to you don't want to have to pay for Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud for starters, but also just everything else that goes with that. And Rotato is like that perfect utility Mac app that does one thing really, really nicely. Yeah, so definitely agree with that one. And then how about you, Ryan?
Well, I tend to be pretty simple with my setup, and I've also like had the same setup for like 10 years. But I do want to give a shout out to, there's like this, I think underrated, also a Git client, a Git UI client called GitUp. It's open source. The pitch, what I really like about it is that it's not like the best app, but it has like a graph view of like all your branches. And so like every node is like a commit. And then what's really great is it has like awesome keyboard shortcuts. So like behind the scenes, if you know like interactive rebase, if you are like a Git nerd, you know what that is. But like if you don't know what it is, what's really cool is like say you want to like change your Git history, which you have to be careful of. But like if you know what you're doing, you want to like edit a commit message. Well, you just click on the node visually and you press E and you rename like what you said. Maybe you had a typo. Or maybe you want to like reorder the commits, right? Like you want to move one down and move one up. Then you just press D to go down or U to go up.
like Vim for Git.
Well, it's still visual, but it's just, it makes Git, I think Git feels like very immutable, right? Like it's like hard to like change things. And part of that is for a good reason, because you can get yourself into trouble, but like, sometimes it is handy to be able to like freely kind of move things around, and Git actually, under the hood allows for that. And it also has like undo, so if you screw up, you can just Command Z, which is really nice. So I think it's a really cool tool. It's open source. I recommend people give it a try. GitUp.
It's called GitUp.
Yeah, GitUp.
Okay, but G-I-T.
Yeah, I think it's gitup.co. I think is.
Okay, cool. We'll add all these in the show notes. Feels weird. Cool. Well, that's the show. Thank you all. This was like super fun. I think I did okay not talking too much. So yeah, give him a hand. All right, and then we'll pass it off to Josh.
Thank you all very much. That was a lot of fun. So clap for them all again, please, as they leave the stage safely. Don't trip. Thank you. All right. So I just have a few, Charlie's laptop is like dead. All right. A few notes that I actually wrote down because I keep forgetting what I'm trying to say. So this is the last thing of the day, which is always sad but also a little exciting because we get a little break and get to have some fun tonight. So tonight there are 2 happy hour events. If you have signed up for them, you have to sign up beforehand. The Revenue Cat one is starting at 6 p.m. at Short Fuse Brewing Company, and the Duolingo one is happening at 6:30 p.m. at Joe's Live. So if you are going to that, you probably know. I do not know if you're going to it. Not my job. Tomorrow we have breakfast at 7:30 a.m. again until like 9-ish when things start. Matthew Castanelli is starting off tomorrow at 9 a.m. With App Intense. It is a great talk. I've heard part of it before, so please be awake, or at least here and semi-asleep for it. After that, we have talks about app clips and shaders, so it's going to be a super fun morning. And then tomorrow, I do have some tasks for all of you and also for some of you. So there is a banner like this out front. Please sign it before you go. It's our way of remembering that you were here, because my memory is terrible, so I'll at least have proof. And then for Michael Flareup's app icon books that we are giving away in the raffle, if you know your app icon is in one of them, please go to the registration desk tomorrow and sign your name somewhere on that page so that that book is feeling a little bit more special. So we're going to make that kind of fun. But that's tomorrow. We're not going to do any more work tonight. So everybody go leave and have a fun and safe night. Thank you.
City lights are burning bright down on Michigan Avenue. Techies gather, hearts ignited, caffeinated fuel, code and chaos, demos blast, the vibe is something wild. Deep dish calls, Chicago's pulse beats louder than a child. Deep dish revolution, innovation in the air. Ideas rise like skyscrapers, tech dreams everywhere. From the loop to Navy Pier, the future's on display. Deep dish brings the fire to the windy city's day. Lines of code like pizza toppings stacked up to the sky. Debugging while the skyline sparkles, catch up questions why. Every glitch a battle cry, every crash a dare. In the room you feel the magic, every bite will share. Deep dish revolution, innovation in the air. Ideas rise like skyscrapers, tech dreams everywhere. From the loop to Navy Pier, the future's on display. Deep dish brings the fire to the windy city's day. So grab your laptop, grab your voice, it's time to make it loud. Pitch your vision to the pack, stand tall and draw the crowd. The city whispers and it roars, it's calling out your name. Deep dish hackers, creators, legends, they're playing the game. Deep dish revolution, innovation in the air. Ideas rise like skyscrapers, tech dreams everywhere. From the loop to Navy Pier, the future's on display. Deep dish brings the fire to the windy city day. Deep city day. City lights are burning bright down on Michigan Avenue. Techies gather, hearts ignited, caffeinated fuel, code and chaos, demos blast, the vibe is something wild. Deep dish calls, Chicago's pulse beats louder than a child. Deep dish revolution, innovation in the air. Ideas rise like skyscrapers, tech dreams everywhere. From the loop to Navy Pier, the future's to make it loud. Pitch a vision to the pack, stand tall and draw the crowd. The city whispers